Where to begin? Intrepid photographer Chris Munnings and I ventured into academia to talk with VCU Associate History Professor Harold Greer, whose office is chock full of really old-looking stuff.
This is one of the famous painted wagons from Costa Rica. These are Indian carved statues from Peru.
And how old would those be, do you suppose?
I'm not sure.
This stuff's tricky, we discover, even for the pros.
Covering the period 1775 to 1775 to 1783.
But he does know whereof he speaks. We're told the oldest building in Richmond is the Old Stone House, dating back to the 1730s, and held together all these years by mortar containing shell from the mighty James River. St. John's Episcopal Church is also high on the history hit parade. The church still holds services, just as it has since 1741. And what about the oldest grave?
He was buried here in 1741. Now, the church was built in did I say 41? I'm sorry. He was buried here in 1751. I beg your pardon.
Got it. Thanks for your time, Mr. Applewhite, but we're still not quite there yet.
A kayak from Admiral Byrd's collection.
And how old would that be?
I don't know how old it was when he collected it.
A Carytown antiques shop jammed with what appear to be very old things.
This is a Massachusetts 18th century chest on chest, made of Virginia walnut and with the original brasses.
18th century. Do you have a specific date on it?
No, I don't.
Nuts. Nuts! What about the natural world?
Right. This is a plant. This is a herbaceous plant, so it's not woody.
Frank Robinson of Lewis Ginter Botanical Garden calls the ginkgo tree a living fossil, identical to specimens that existed 150 million years ago. This one, though, is only about 150 years old. But it does have a nifty feature, fruit that smells like...
dog droppings. But so it's very stinky, but the Japanese and the Chinese eat the nut inside of the fruit, and I understand the Chinese also make a jelly from the fruit itself.
Wisdom and common sense dictate that we do not ask. Instead, we beat it to the Virginia Museum, the last desperate stop on this urban safari. Pay dirt, 1200 BC.
It's from the Swat Valley, which is in what is now Pakistan, northern Pakistan.
So this is the pot from Swat.
Pot from Swat, yes.
It's clear from our conversation that Joe Dye really loves this old pot.
I mean, it's very important, and it's a very early representation of the face of man in Indian art.
That's what that is supposed to be, the face of man. It looks kind of like a bird, doesn't it?
It does. Well, sort of large nose, but you can see it's...
So, the oldest thing in Richmond is this weird little cremation urn from half a world away. And we didn't even leave the city limits. In Richmond, Elizabeth Hewlett and Chris Munnings, News Channel 6.